the brands who got more consistent coverage also got better coverage. So I think that same principle of the pottery class applies to media. Like the people who are getting more coverage do get the better coverage more consistently. So it's a powerful tool to be able to be consistent in the media to get your brand out there more and more and more and more. And you're going to be better at delivering your message. You're going to be better at your story and the details and connecting with people because that's a huge part of what getting the media is. Great part about the UGC side of it is it's still the third party validation, but you don't have to use the bad feedback. You can keep that to yourself.
Uh-huh.
But it you still get a lot of that same benefit of trust and brand recognition. Even it's using other people's platform. That's a huge part of it.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Your Lab Central. Today I'm joined by Austin. So, Austin, would you like to tell our audience why they should be excited about this conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. It's because I'm amazing and that everything I say and do is perfect. No, I'm kidding. I screw up so much, and so hopefully there's some lessons in what I have screwed up on to get to where we are that could help you. So
All
we'll go
right.
from there.
So, talking about screw ups, I don't know which screw up you want to talk about first. The lesson that. So, where should we start?
Yeah, so we have been developing a software, Signal Raptor, over the past 18 months, and it has been a learning process for me, learning how to develop. And this isn't even our first software project. I had spent 6 months a couple years ago learning basic coding, figured out I was not good enough to do it myself, made a lot of mistakes during that time period
Yeah.
as well. And then spent some time searching for a partner for that project. Never found anybody, but
Mm.
we came back around with our PR agency and said, "Hey, let's, do something that works really well for us, design something that, makes our lives easier, solve a problem for us. That's going to in turn solve a problem for a lot of other people."
That's
So, in the software development process, there are some specific roles that are needed, and design is a critical one. We waited way too long to have designers come and join us, and I think it speaks to a larger preparation point of you need to plan.
Mm.
Taking the extra 5 minutes to plan something out keeps you from making the mistake that
Yeah.
costs you 60 minutes. So I think that's a huge lesson learned over the past 18 months is actually plan
Mhm.
stuff out.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I can say from experience, yeah, having to wait out for somebody and then waiting for it because you're planning it out and being very careful about it. It's something there, but I know where should the balance lie between the plan to perfection or plan to say the MVP.
I think you need to plan for everybody to be able to take action and what their follow up is going to be. Like, hey, after you're completed with this item that we've assigned you or that you volunteered for, make sure you know what to do after you're done. And that it's often talked about in terms of defining what done is.
Yes.
So, that's an important part of the process is defining what outcome we want and then working towards that outcome. But during that process, somebody should be paying attention to the plan and figuring out, okay, after these set of tasks are done, what needs to happen next? And a large part of that's been on me, but also on our tech lead for making sure that, the next 2, 3, 4 sprints are planned out so that we're being as efficient with our time and our resources because it becomes a resource management problem,
Yeah.
not only in software, but business in general.
hmm Now, one thing I wanted to talk about, previously you mentioned that we solve a problem for ourselves and then that problem can be solved for a lot of people. That's a pretty nice thought process to have because yeah, you trying to identify a problem that you are having and then probably identify that the same problem is there with a lot of people. And then if you can solve it for yourself, then there are other people you could be serving and then there's value to be created for a lot of people in that process, right? Uh, did that realization just hit you, or was it something iterative that came out?
Uh, this is a thought process that I've known of for a long, long time of,
Okay.
working off of solving a problem.
hmm
It really, when I was doing my coding learning, if you want to call it that, a huge source of influence was the guys out in the valley.
hmm
Um, and learning from them, hey, find a problem, attack that problem, solve it, and then you can move on to your dream because you might want to build something just because it seems cool to you. But if
Mhm.
you're not solving a problem, then you don't really have a product.
Right.
So we had this huge problem in our business of managing all of these clients, managing everything that's going on in the
Mhm.
media world for them. And we have systems, but it's so disjointed. So we said, hey, let's put this together in a way that actually works, that is able to run a brand. Like
Yeah.
we work with a lot of consumer packaged goods brands, among other brands. And so we said, all right, let's build this so that not only can we run our brands through it that we work with, but somebody individually can come up and pick up the software and run with it and run their communications through the platform.
Yeah. So what is this product that you're actually working with? What are you providing others with?
So what we've built so far is a service first and a software on top of it.
Hmm.
We come from that background. We are a service agency, and so we wanted to start with that. We think that's going to continue, even though AI is going to make a lot of that process easier. People
Yeah.
still want the personal connection, and for our industry, working in the media, it's still going to be a producer for the foreseeable future because
Yeah.
those decisions still have to be made. Now, whether they can go through 100 applications or 50 in a day, that's the difference. So, as we move forward, you need to have a more competitive story. You need to have more compelling information, background, experience, and you need to frame it in a way that's going to get the attention out of 100 people instead of out of 50. Now, the numbers are actually even higher than that now,
Yeah.
but we built Raptor to be able to make that process as easy as possible, not just for the brands who are going to be using it, but for ourselves as well. And so at its core, it's a media management tool. And a lot of the things we're working on now is that adaptive content,
Hmm.
the ability to refine, produce more because it is a numbers game. The example is out there all over the place of, one class was assigned making the best pot,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
the other class, you have to make as many as you can.
Yeah.
Well, the best pots were made by the class making more pots because they just have more experience. They have more time behind the microphone in this case, and they're able to then turn that into the best possible product. And
Right.
we saw that in our own data set. We've been using Airtable as our project management tool since about 2020. And
Okay.
in there, we just crossed 26, or sorry, yeah, 26,000 media
Mhm.
opportunities.
Right.
And we reviewed that data around the 20,000 mark. And what we saw blaringly obvious was the brands who got more consistent coverage also got better coverage. So I think that same principle of the pottery class applies to media. Like the people who are getting more coverage do get the better coverage more consistently. So it's a powerful tool to be able to be consistent in the media to get your brand out there more and more and more and more. And you're going to be better at delivering your message. You're going to be better at your story and the details and connecting with people because that's a huge part of what getting the media is.
Now, when you say, I mean, I'm a little, I'm just new to this terminology. So, if you can just explain what you mean by coverage, is it coverage by other media platforms, or is it
Mhm.
something on social media, or is it the media that they are own creating and putting out in the open?
Yeah, so us as an agency work a lot with media relations. That's directly like third-party media outlets.
Okay.
But in PR in general, there's a great model called the peso model, and that's paid, earned, social, and organic. Earned is really where we play on the agency side a whole lot, but you can use all of those to connect with your audience, and that's what it is: building a community, building a tribe, building an audience. It's all representative of the same thing. You're trying to get people aware of what you're doing. And then it's a lot easier for people to self-select and say, hey, I want to work with these guys because I know, like, and trust them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a part of what we're doing is that earned piece.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that landscape has changed a tremendous amount over the past couple of years, past 6, 7, 8 years, because we made the shift from people reading newspapers, when you and I were kids
Hmm.
to now it's Twitter feed and
Yeah.
digital news sources and podcasts and YouTube channels and TikTok channels. Like the amount of platforms has dramatically rose from, five news stations and five newspapers to now 5,000 different opportunities. And so we have constantly expanded the results that we create in each category for our clients.
Hmm.
So,
So yeah, I mean, the Pacer model that you mentioned, paid on social, and was that reference? The R?
the O was owned. So
Oh,
I might have said organic, but it's actually owned.
okay.
So that's your blog or
All
your
right, they
website.
own my, yeah, okay, I get that.
Yeah, if you have your own TV show, your own radio show, that kind of thing.
Right. Now, from the terms itself, does social actually refer to the social media, or are there other
Mhm.
social channels like news and everything? So,
Yeah, and it kind of depends on where it falls because
mm,
everybody's integrating across all platforms. Like,
yeah,
CBS now has its own podcast and they have their own news site and they have their own blog and they have their
yeah,
own everything. And so you do have, especially some of the larger media outlets
mm,
playing in all the spaces themselves. Like CBS sells advertising. And so they play in paid, they play in earned with their actual news
yeah,
coverage, covering normal stories.
mhm,
Social, they're very active there, and they themselves own their own platforms.
yeah.
And podcasts would be another example.
Okay. Now, since we're only working with earned, just want to learn more about this. Because for a brand to actually earn space in a different media platform where it's not actually paying to get featured, right? There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and that work has to be internal for the brand itself to create quality in a manner that some writer thinks about you and then writes about you and then covers you, right? So where is
Mhm.
this stemming from? As in the brand, your help. I mean, the brand has to work on themselves first before they can actually earn some media coverage. Uh,
Yeah.
so where are
Uh,
these processes coming from?
we always tell people to start with their messaging. And, messaging can come from a bunch of different places. It can come from somebody's personal background and their story. It
Mhm.
can come from just talking about a product. Like if you're a tea company, like
Mhm.
you can talk about where the tea is from and who the farmers of the tea are and how you got started in the tea industry. And you develop your story, you develop your messaging, you decide who you want to reach, and then, okay, how do we go after these audiences? And sometimes it's just, hey, talk to 100 of your friends and figure out who wants to buy your tea. That's one methodology of going and finding your audience. After you kind of figure out who your audience is, you find where they are. And then, okay,
Right.
how can we reach them? If you're targeting older generations, like they're going to be watching news programs a lot more than the younger generation is. You're going to tend to go towards social, especially TikTok, depending on what generation you're going after. YouTube is pretty strong, but obviously it takes a lot more work. And so finding that audience, ChatGPT it. That's the short version.
Yeah.
Life is pretty easy
Yeah.
for finding audience now. And after you find that audience, you're using your messaging, you're crafting individual stories, you're crafting shorts, long form, articles, news releases. News releases are really more specifically to members of the media because they're looking for that specific format so that they can write stories about you. And that's part of what we play in.
Hmm.
But it's relationship management too. There's a huge aspect of, hey, there's tens of thousands of media outlets out there. And how do you get their attention? Part of that is relationship building. And so that's what working with a third party agency is going to give you is, 12 years already of building those relationships with media members. And so there's a huge advantage in that for us. And that's part of the reason we're successful. But if you're just doing it for yourself, you can relate to people by being from the same city. So
Yeah.
again, using AI, looking up who your local newscasters are, who the local producers at the TV station are, and sending them a message because you can find all their information on AI and then just email them. That is a very simple methodology, for trying to get that attention. But again, you're competing against hundreds of other people doing that every single day. So it's partially that consistency game. It's partially marketing, of just making sure that your headline is right and that you're going to get that attention in that email. Or you can do it on social too. Social is another great way to reach out to some of these personalities.
Now, my main basic question is that it's okay to have, I mean, the owned model, right? The owned form of coverage is basically what you're doing by yourself, right?
Yeah.
Uh, you have your own channel, be it YouTube or Instagram, or if you have a TV show or something of that sort. That's something that you're doing by yourself. Now, there is the messaging that you control, right?
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
that is what the brand controls, and they do it as they want. But the earned part, my main the kink in my thought process is basically that the earned part is basically that somebody else is controlling. Okay. It's not just messaging that drives somebody to, I mean, I heard good things about your work. Okay. I'm hearing good things about what you're doing from you, right? And it's a
Hmm.
difference when somebody else starts talking. There will be a difference in the way they talk about what you're doing with them. Okay. And a certain kind of quality of work or quality of product service has to be delivered before somebody else does it on their own behalf is my question. Okay.
Yeah. That's a fascinating thing about working with the media is it's a risk and a reward because
Yeah.
they could absolutely just destroy you.
Yeah.
But if you have a good quality product or service, then that shouldn't be your concern. Your concern should be making sure that it's implemented properly, like by them.
Mhm.
Making sure that if you're selling a tea comp or a tea brand and you find out that the news person doesn't like tea, they're 100% on the coffee train.
Yeah.
Maybe don't send them your tea. um, but that third party coming in and giving their trusted opinion, because that's what it is people trust, I think it's 83 or 87% more seeing you on TV.
Mhm.
And that is a incredibly powerful thing. So that comes from there being a risk on the front end of them not liking it. Like if they like coffee and they hate tea, like again, don't send it to them in the first place. But that trust of their audience is then passed forward to you. So you get this massive advantage of being in earned media of third party trust and validation.
Mhm.
And, you can do that on the paid side as well, but it's not quite as effective.
Yeah.
Um, and so there is a risk in dealing with the media. It's also a lot more competitive. Like Facebook will take anybody's money to run ads.
Yeah.
The person at Forbes only writes so many articles. And so it's also this scarcity thing of they know if you've gotten here, you're better than the other 100 people who pitched to
Mhm.
get this article. And so there's multiple factors going into that make it effective, and that's why it's such a big deal. And everybody big talks about it of earned media or like getting in the press,
Mhm.
and no one really shares how because they don't want to give up the advantage.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Now the next type of earned media that I want to talk about is user-generated content that's out there in social media. Uh, the ideal form of user-generated content is the one that has been earned, right? Where real users are actually posting videos or talking about a certain service or product on social media or on platforms that they're using. But these days, UGC, there's a lot of paid UGC that's coming out, right? People are paying creators, smaller content creators to actually make a video for them and then make it seem genuine that they're actually using
Mhm.
it. How do you work this out?
That's we do this very intentionally. Our packages don't even include the paid influencer side. Like you can go do that and it is effective. And like we've used influencers and paid UGC for us.
Mhm.
It's not wrong to go do it. It's a great place to start. But
Mhm.
having the authentic stuff that's not duplicatable by your competition, that's what you really want.
Yeah.
And so as soon as you can make that shift into using UGC that is earned,
Mhm.
the um you can be very intentional with gathering that too. Like that's what
Right.
so many people don't do is they don't go and ask for the feedback. We ask for feedback on every single call with our clients. I think it's now on every single email is like, hey, give us some feedback. Um, and it's a powerful thing.
Mhm.
The great part about the UGC side of it is it's still the third party validation, but you don't have to use the bad feedback. You can keep that to yourself.
Uh-huh.
But it you still get a lot of that same benefit of trust and brand recognition. Even it's using other people's platform.
Mhm.
That's a huge part of it. So yeah, UGC all day. Oh, what I was getting to is like in our packages, we don't offer the paid influencer side because we know how much more effective the earned
Mhm.
UGC, earned influencer content is. And it's a lot more work. That's why we
Yeah.
get paid for it. So it is a tremendous amount more work to then, because you can go on Fiverr and say, hey, make me a review video for $50.
Mhm.
But you can also email 50,000 people trying to get one review. So um, there's a balance of work there. So, but the earned stuff is better.
So we've talked a lot about businesses using media and how you can get UGC content. Now let's talk about how you are using social media. If you want to share, how's your experience been with platforms?
Yeah, so I was on very early, and I one of my biggest regrets is not continuing to be one of those early adopters.
Okay.
And a huge reason for that is I ended up joining the military, and the military is like, don't post on social. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
okay, I'd rather keep my job. And it's a missed opportunity, but it's not something that's uncorrectable.
Hmm.
So I didn't post on social more or less for like 7 years.
Hmm.
And getting back into it now, it's just being consistent, going back to the consistency principle. Um, Even if it sucks, eventually you're going to do enough and you're going to get better. And
Hmm.
so again, I've had some practice, but uh, getting back into it has certainly been an adjustment. And, my wife has been very, very active the entire time, and
Hmm.
she has a decent following. And you know, she's consistent, but we also have team members to help us. If you don't have a team, leverage technology. You can sit down for an hour a week and have more social content than 99% of people.
Yeah.
Uh, and now we have AI that'll split it into 100 videos for you and do all these fancy things and make a static version, make a video version. You can make an AI video of the same thing and split test it. Anyway, so there's so much going on, but it does come down to you still have to sit there and create the content in order to be competitive on social. And so that's what we've been focusing a lot, not only for our personal branding, but
Mhm.
also for promoting our companies.
Mhm.
And with our software fixing to launch in 3 days, which is pretty exciting, uh, we've been doing a lot more content around that. And um, it seems to be getting some traction because of that. So it's exciting to see people rolling in from content.
Yeah, that's actually very exciting when you get a lot of engagement on what you're working on, and then social media just kind of adds to the whole adrenaline where you get a like, you get a comment, and then it's positive, it could be negative, but then obviously any form of engagement is basically boosting the post to go out to the next 10 people, right? Um,
Mhm.
what I feel, and that's working out in favor of the content creators.
I think an important thing here too is you still have to do each part of it. Like
Yeah.
just creating the content is not enough. Like for those of you who have done e-commerce, just posting the product and running ads to it is not enough. You can get a 40% uptick from those first three emails after on abandoned cart. So making sure that you have the other steps in there, making sure that you're sending outbound, that you're doing the engagement piece, that
Mhm.
you're commenting on every response, at least for that first period. And I think it's 15 minutes or an hour. They're
Mhm.
different platforms, different things. Um, but making sure that you're doing the supplementary things, and you can do a lot of this automated with AI now too. There's bots where you can auto respond to every review, and that's a powerful thing. You set it up once and it runs forever. You don't even have to think about it. But you can need to make sure that your messaging and your brand voice is in there
Yeah.
because you don't want it responding like some famous people might respond. So.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I've been hearing about brand voices for the past three episodes. I don't know. It's just coincidence of what we've been talking about brand voices very frequently. What's your take on building the perfect brand voice? Which AI tool are you using or recommending?
Oh gosh, we're still so manual on that side of it. The Claude does pretty well copy, but you need to still give it a baseline.
Uh-huh.
And you can just sit there and talk into a word processor for 30 minutes and talk about your brand, and it's going to give so many notes, and that's plenty of information for any of the AIs to kind of operate off of. And if you need prompting, you just ask the AI, "Hey, give me 100 questions to answer about my brand." And then,
All
okay.
right.
So you like at each stage of this, you don't really need to think anything beyond what you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't run into anybody that has trouble answering direct questions yet as far as what their brand represents because it is easy. It's just you being authentic to you. And that's a key element. If you're not authentic with your brand voice, it will not work because you're going to continue to create content. And if that's inauthentic, people key on that so quickly.
Yeah.
That's just part of the adapted human response. Um, but as far as our process, I like StoryBrand. It's a great framework to
Okay.
start building your brand voice, brand messaging, and there's a whole system behind that. But that's a pretty good one that we use. And it also can just be your story. You can just tell your story. You can tell like those details I was talking about with tea company earlier. Like, hey, where's the tea from? Um, those are simple things, and so much of that can be built into your brand voice. And so you don't even have to be a creative type person to come
Yeah.
up with this. Yeah, I did that answer your question well? Because I feel like there's so much to talk about there.
No, I mean that is very correct. There's so much to talk about when you're trying to do this stuff, and then just the number of tools is exploding in the market. So yeah, if you have something and then you're just sharing what you've been using, right? So that's perfect because that's what people want to hear about. So yeah, thanks for joining in.
Oh,
Yeah, go on,
yeah.
please.
One more thing on that that's super important is I'm pretty numbers focused across the board. And this is a critical piece. No matter what your brand voice is, what you're talking about, what you're speaking to, the topics that you're covering, what kind of posts you're doing, let the numbers help you with that.
Hmm.
Try a bunch of stuff. Nobody knows how their brand voice is going to fit into the marketplace right away.
Yeah.
Go try 100 different things. Like answer those 100 questions, put those questions on and see what people respond to, see how they can relate to your brand, and then use that to continue spreading your brand voice. And using that data, those numbers is the biggest key to success.
Right. Makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I mean, numbers mean a lot there. So, yeah, thanks for joining in. I don't know, I actually don't have any follow-up on the last thing you mentioned. But yeah, before we close, Austin, could you tell us a little more about your business and then where people can get in touch with you if they want to know
Yeah,
about you? Yeah.
Our our agency is Publicity for Good. Been in business since 2016 with that. My wife Heather started it from her mom's basement, and we've grown. We serve a lot of consumer packaged goods brands, but now a whole lot beyond that, just with growing and adding different verticals. We started working on Signal Raptor. That is our software about 18 months ago. It launches July 4th, 2025. And we're really excited about that. And we've had beta users for about a year now, and got a lot of results and good response from them. A lot of feedback that's helped the software too. But we're excited to grow that. You can find us all over social. Publicity for Good, Signal Raptor, Heather DeSantis, Heather Holmes now, and then A Austin Holmes is pretty much my handle on everything.
All right. Thank you so much, Austin. Thank you for joining in, and all the best to you for the launch of Signal Raptor as well. Uh, to the audience, if you have any questions or if you want to add to the conversation, the comment section is open. If you liked what we talked about, do leave a like and don't forget to subscribe before you close the window. Thank you so much, Austin. Thank you for joining in, and thanks to the audience. Yeah.
Thank you.